All right, today we are moving on to the next transformation. What does it mean to transform? To change. Our first transformation we learned was translations. Today we are moving on to a reflection. Who remembers what a reflection is? A flip. Also known as a mirror image. When you look in a mirror, it just flips it. We shouldn't have calculators out. We should just be taking notes. So you can look over here and you can see which one of these is the image and which one is the new, which one is the new image and which one is the original? The original is the one without the primes. The one down here is with the primes. That's your new image. So you can see that it flipped over. That is called the line of reflection, basically like where the mirror was put. So it is a line that the image flips over. In my class, the line of reflection will be either the x-axis or y-axis. Now, once you get to geometry in high school, it could be anything. It could be like x equals 1 or y equals 2. But in my class, the line of reflection is either, so let's write that down, either the x-axis or the y-axis. The line of reflection is either the x-axis or the y-axis. Today is one of the easier transformations because the rule, you're not going to have to fill in any numbers at all. All you're going to have to ask yourself is which axis did the shape flip over. Okay? So everybody look at this picture right here and ask yourself, did this shape flip over the x-axis or the y-axis? The x-axis. So if you look right here, this is the x-axis. It flipped it from the top to the bottom. So right here, there are two different rules. Once you know which axis it flipped over, which we just said it flipped over the x-axis, then this is the rule. And what's going to happen is you're going to have to memorize these rules, but this one is actually really easy, and I'm going to show y'all what happened. So everybody look at point B right here. Everybody looking? What is the coordinate of point B? The coordinate. Give me the x value first. 4, 1. Okay, now let's look at the new B. What is the x value of the new B? 4, -1. Look at these two coordinates. Do they have something that is the same? The 4. What is that? That is an x, yes? So the x stayed the same. What happened to the y? It became negative. So everybody look at the rule for a reflection across the x-axis. It says you take your x and your y, but the x stays x. You'll see that it stays the same. X stays x. But the y became negative, which we're going to say opposite, because if it was negative, it's going to become positive. If it was positive, it's going to become negative. So these rules are actually really easy to memorize. So the way that I memorize this is I say, when you flip across the x-axis, the x stays the same, the y becomes opposite. Yes? And you can see every point, like A is at 2, 1, the new A is at 2, -1. So the x stays the same, the y becomes opposite. So what do you think the difference is when you reflect across the y-axis? When you reflect across the y-axis, the y stays the same, and the x becomes opposite. So these rules, again, you're never going to have to fill in a number for these rules. Like yesterday we had to fill in like +2, -3. You're not going to have to do that. These rules, these are your answers right here. So for every problem today, you're going to have to pick one of those answers, okay? All right, let's go look at this first one. The first thing we're going to do is we are going to draw a reflection across what? So everybody take your pencil and highlight the x-axis. If you have a highlighter, you can use it. When you reflect across the x-axis, it's going to go from bottom to top or top to bottom. So this R, everybody look at the x-axis. Instead of being up to, it's going to be what? From this axis, it's going to be down 2. So here's my new R. The T from right here, instead of being up 5, is going to be down 5 right here. This is the new T. I don't see everybody doing it with me. This S right here, it's going to be right here on the x-axis, but instead of being up 4, it's going to be down 4. And this Q right here on the x-axis at 1, instead of being up 4, it's going to be down 4. So that's my new Q. I'm going to connect my dots. And that's how you draw a reflection across the x-axis. All you're doing, guys, is mirroring the image from the x-axis. So instead of being up that many, it's going to be down that many. All right, let's look at point R. Everybody write point R's coordinate right here. What is this coordinate at? Where am I at on the x-axis? 2. Where am I at on the y-axis? 2. Now come down here. Let's look at the new R. Where am I at on the x-axis? 2. Where am I at on the y-axis? Okay, so what is the rule? When we reflect across the x-axis, the x stayed the same and the y became negative, which we're going to say the word opposite. So write a rule. When you reflect across the x-axis, the x stays the same. So x stays x, but the y becomes opposite, which means put a negative sign in front of it. Now, on the next example, we are not going to reflect across the x-axis, we're going to reflect across the, so take your highlighter or pencil and highlight the y-axis. So which way is this shape going to flip? It's going to go like this, yes, right to left. So let's go draw it. Everybody look at Q. From the y-axis, Q is to the right 1, so go back to the y-axis. Instead of being right 1, it's going to be left 1. Put a new Q. What is this letter? Okay, thank you. Okay, right here for the S, instead of being right 1, 2, 3 from the y-axis, it's going to be left 1, 2, 3. So here's the new S. Y'all should be drawing this. Okay, the T, go to the y-axis. Instead of being right 2, it's going to be left 2. Here's the new T. And the R, here's the y-axis. Instead of being right 2, it's going to be left 2. So here is the new R. Now, does that look like that could be a translation? Yes, but it's not. It is a reflection across the y-axis. Now, let's look at their coordinates. So everybody write over here. Let's write the coordinate of the old T. I need everybody paying attention. What is the x value of this old T? 2. What is the y value of the old T? 5. Now let's look at the new t. Okay, what is the x value of the new t? Negative 2. What is the y value of the new t? 5. What happened? What stayed the same? The y stayed the same. The x became opposite. So when we reflect across the y-axis, the y stays the same. Okay, so I'm going to write the rule. When I reflect across the y-axis, the y stays the same. So everybody look, y stays y. What happened to the x? It became negative, but we're going to say the word opposite. This is one of the easier lessons of transformations. You're not going to fill any numbers. You don't really have to count today. I don't even think we're graphing. You're just going to answer questions. Okay, do y'all have any questions? Now, flip to the back real quick. When you reflect a shape, so everybody look at my phone. When I reflect my phone and I flip it, did it change size? No. Did it change shape? Did the perimeter change? Did the area change? Did the angles change? Did the side lengths change? So what happens when you reflect a shape? What does it do? Reflections. What do? They preserve. Write that down. They preserve congruence. Meaning, and if you want to write this, you can, because you're going to be asked a question. You don't have to. The angles, the side lengths, the area, the perimeter, anything you can think of stays congruent. They stay the same. Same size, same shape. The only thing that changed was your view of it, the orientation. It flipped over. Now, your answers today are all found on the front of this paper and right here. So, you are either going to pick this answer or this answer, and technically you just have to read the problem. It might say, when you reflect across the x-axis, it might give you a picture. You don't need the picture. If it reflects across the x-axis, this is your answer. Okay? When it reflects across the y-axis, this is your picture. Now, I know that you have them right here, but we need to start memorizing them because you don't get this on your STAR test. So start saying it to yourself. When I reflect across the x-axis, the x stays the same. When I reflect across the y-axis, the y stays the same. Yes? You're going to complete your assignment in the Google Classroom. I will check it for you one time and one time only. When you are finished, you are to get on IXL and work on section, what was it, R? You're going to work on section R.